My name is Mason Carter, and I've never been fond of dramatics. Emotions are liabilities, my father used to say, delivering the line with the blunt certainty of a man who negotiated with banks the way other people ask for directions. Robert Carter built a trucking empire from dust and diesel fumes and dared the market to blink. Stoic, razor-sharp, unstoppably was the storm wall I grew up against. I absorbed his lessons silently, thoroughly, even when I swore I'd never become him. 10 years ago, if you'd asked whether I believed in destiny, I would have laughed. Yet here I am, stepping into a tempest I never saw coming, half convinced Dad predicted every crack in the sky. I married Evelyn when we were both 23. She burned bright, easy laugh, warm eyes, a knack for making strangers feel like lifelong friends, and I felt privileged just to hold her hand. 2 years later, our daughter Zoe arrived, and I threw myself into fatherhood with the same focus I once gave reconnaissance briefs in my Army Ranger days. I poured time, money, and whatever scraps of wisdom I owned into my family, convinced devotion would inoculate us against disaster, even as my father's iron mannerisms echoed in the back of my mind. 25 years of marriage, that's a lot of life. Arguments that flared and cooled, nightly routines that blurred months into seasons, compromises that felt small until they suddenly didn't. I had no clue how quickly stability could evaporate, how completely illusions could shatter until the moment I realized I might have been a single misstep away from losing everything I thought mattered. It started, as upheavals often do, on an ordinary Tuesday, the 29th of August. The sun hammered Riverton with late summer hostility, baking the sidewalks and turning parked cars into ovens. Yet in the office, the day felt manageable. I closed 2 contracts, wrapped meetings early, and decided to surprise Evelyn at home. Our 25th anniversary on the 3rd of September loomed large in my mind, a milestone begging for some secret getaway. I hummed possibilities the whole drive, windows down, certain I was steering into calm water. Instead, I walked straight into the eye of the storm. They were in the kitchen, Evelyn leaning against the counter, Zoe at the table, both wearing expressions that looked suspiciously rehearsed. The smell of fresh coffee hung in the air, mocking in its domestic normalcy. I set my briefcase on the bench, offered a casual, "Hey, ladies," and asked what was up. Evelyn motioned to the chair opposite Zoe. "Mason, please sit." Zoe's eyes flicked between us, more excited than nervous. "Dad, we need to talk." I lowered myself into the chair, elbows on the table, trying to project a calm I didn't feel. "I'm listening." Evelyn drew a slow breath. "We're about to hit 25 years in a few days, Mason. I need change. These years have been good, mostly, but I want the chance to explore something new." "Define something new," I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. Zoe jumped in, practically bubbling. "Mom wants an open marriage, and I think it's great. All the modern couples do it now. It's not a big deal, Dad. Physical stuff isn't the center of love anymore. You just have to trust each other." Trust. The word tasted like rust. Modern couples everywhere are doing this, huh? She nodded, the self-assurance of a college senior who's taken one sociology elective. "You're so old-fashioned. Real love isn't about locking bodies down. Set each other free." Heat coiled in my gut, but I kept my face neutral and old Ranger drill. "Count, breathe, don't let them see you break." I turned to Evelyn. "Is this really how you feel?" She bit her lip, eyes sliding to the floor. "I'm not unhappy, Mason, I'm just bored. Tired of the same routines, the same bed, the same man. I want something different." The casual brutality of her words slapped something loose inside my chest. Every instinct screamed to stand up, walk out, disappear. Instead, I tapped my fingers against the oak tabletopone, 2, 3 steadying myself. "So your plan," I said at last, voice cool, "is you date other men while I, what? Stand at the window and wave goodbye?" Zoe rolled her eyes. "Stop being dramatic. You can date too. Nobody's stopping you. But let's be honest, you might need a little help. Download an app, swipe around, you'll figure it out." They started giggling like teenagers, daring each other to jump a fence. unaware, maybe unconcerned about the fire they just kicked loose beneath our roof. For a heartbeat, I felt like a punchline on late-night TV, some hapless middle-aged sap the host mocks while the crowd howls. I laced my fingers, let out a slow breath, and asked, "So, Evelyn, is there already someone picked out?" She hesitated just long enough to sting. "It's Lucas," she murmured. "Lucas Sterling. He owns Bellevue Bistro on Harbor Avenue." Zoe leaned forward, practically bouncing. "Oh my God, Mom, excellent choice. He's gorgeous, seriously good for you." Something in my chest tightened until it felt like wire around bone. Lucas, of course. I'd hosted a dozen client dinners under his artisanal Edison bulbs, bragged about his sea-based special, tipped his servers like family. Apparently, he'd been sampling my family in return. I forced an even tone. "I see the two of you have this mapped out." I turned to Zoe. "So if Lucas starts dating your mother, you're fine with that?" "Absolutely," she chirped. "Don't be a dinosaur, Dad." I rose, walked to the sink, and let silence stretch until it twanged. They looked genuinely puzzled by my calm. "Evelyn," I said at last, "this isn't some trivial experiment. You understand that?" She lifted her chin, but a flicker of doubt crossed her eyes. "I've never been more certain." I shut off the faucet. "All right, I'm in." They froze. Zoe even smirked, like I'd handed them backstage passes. "Really? You'll open the marriage?" "Yes, on one condition." "There can't be conditions," Zoe snapped, folding her arms. "That's controlling. I make the conditions." My voice came out colder than I intended. "This house is mine, courtesy of the prenup your mother and I signed at my father's insistence. You want an open arrangement? Fine. But I set the ground rules for anything that happens on my property. Don't like it? Find another roof." Evelyn's bravado slipped. Her eyes widened just enough to register the drop. Zoe tried to laugh it off. "Dad, half of this place is Mom's legally." "Stop, Zoe," Evelyn cut in, voice low. "He's right. The deed's in Mason's name." I watched Zoe's confidence leak away. "You're not actually going to kick us out, are you, Dad?" I didn't answer. Instead, I walked out, leaving the question to rattle around the kitchen like a loose bead. That night, I lingered in the hallway outside, an old ranger habit surfacing. "He'll never throw you out," Zoe whispered. "He's bluffing, Mom. You're the love of his life." Evelyn's reply was barely audible. "You don't really know your father. He can be ruthless when cornered. Afghanistan changed him." Zoe scoffed. "He's just a cranky old man who needs a reality check." I almost laughed, almost. They had no idea what parts of me I'd buried beneath polished shoes and quarterly reports. The fuse was lit. All I had to do was choose where the blast landed. At dawn, I drove straight to my attorney's office. David Cole Harvard, mind, pit bull instincts, and a name that sounded respectable enough for the brass plates downtown had guided me since college. He waved me in, eyebrow already arched. "You look like a man plotting sieges." "I need a post-nuptial," I said, closing the door behind me. "One that clamps every potential claim Evelyn could dream up." He leaned back. "Why not just file for divorce? Clean cut, less headache." "Too neat," I said. "I want them to feel the consequences of asking for an open marriage. No tidy exits." David's grin was all teeth. "Bigger cynic than your old man ever was. Let's see the wish list." I slid a folder across the desk. Airtight clauses on property disposition, asset liquidation triggers, monthly STD panels for everyone involved, disclaimers for any children conceived with outside partners, absolute ban on extramarital guests crossing my threshold. David skimmed the pages, let out a low whistle. "You're aiming for the jugular, Mason." I pictured my father's stone-cut profile staring through me from some distant memory and realized the old man would have approved. I kept telling myself I wasn't exacting vengeance, just enforcing the boundaries they claimed to crave, letting them shake hands with reality. 2 days later, we crowded into David Cole's glossy corner office. Me, Evelyn, Zoe, and Evelyn's freshly hired attorney, Angela Morristal, polished, Prada sharp. Angela's lips thinned an eighth of an inch with every clause she read, until the final page hit the table with a papery slap. "This section," she said icily, tapping the margin, "states that if Mrs. Carter files for divorce, while the open marriage agreement is in effect, she forfeits any alimony or spousal support, cannot claim the Riverton house, cannot touch Mr. Carter's business equity, and is barred from bringing any partner, Mr. Sterling or otherwise, onto the marital property." Evelyn's brows drew together. "Mason, that's extreme." "No support at all if you choose Lucas?" I asked, voice flat. "Why should I bankroll my own replacement? I'm only clarifying the prenup Dad made us signating footnotes for this modern arrangement. Your dates, your dime. I'll keep paying the mortgage and utilities, but your extracurriculars? Swipe your own card." Zoe's tone went knife sharp. "You're humiliating her. This is disgusting, Dad." I met her stare and didn't blink. "You told me love wasn't about money. Mom's perfectly free. Lucas is loaded. Surely he won't let her pick up a check." Evelyn inhaled, shoulders stiff. "Fine. I'll sign. Angela, let's wrap it up." Angela hesitated, jaw flexing. "It's unorthodox, arguably unconscionable." "I'm comfortable with it," Evelyn insisted, lifting her chin toward me like a lance. "He's trying to scare me, that's all." Zoe folded her arms so tight her knuckles blanched. "Mom, are you sure?" "I'm sure." David slid the pen across. Evelyn signed with a flourish that was meant to look triumphant. To me, it resembled a white flag on fire. Part of me admired the nerve. A larger part marveled at how blind she was to the trap she'd helped set. The next weeks, I ran the company on autopilot contracts, site visits, investor calls, while something colder began clicking into place beneath the paperwork. Evelyn wasted zero time booking her grand night out with Lucas. Zoe hyped it like a halftime show, needling me at dinner. "Hey, Dad, download Tinder. I heard even boomers can score a swipe." I smiled without showing teeth. They didn't notice the silent stretching between each forkful. When Evelyn's big date rolled around, I arranged a parallel engagement. If she wanted Lucas Sterling, the king of Harbor Avenue's culinary scene, then I would escort his daughter. Grace Sterling, 23, legal, independent, and quietly disdainful of her father's ego. We chatted at charity functions. I suspected she was itching to dent Lucas's armor. Half curious, half strategic, I invited her to a Veterans Relief Gala at the Regatta Hotel the same evening. She accepted within 5 minutes. Grace arrived in a midnight blue dress that drew every gaze in the lobby, yet she greeted me with a handshake and a wry comment about her dad's latest wine list price hike. I introduced her to CEOs, retired generals, even the mayor. She held her own, discussing logistics, bottlenecks, and municipal bonds as though she'd been born in a boardroom. Some guests looked puzzled, others amused, but the shockwave I wanted had been launched. News travels faster than gossip apps when egos are involved. By morning, Zoe was pacing the living room in full detonation mode. "You took Lucas's daughter out?" she yelled as I walked in, fists balled at her sides, eyes blazing. "What is wrong with you?" I slipped off my jacket, hung it on the hallway hook, and pretended Zoe's outrage was background noise. "I escorted a consenting adult to a veterans charity," I said evenly. "Your mother spent the night with Lucas in a hotel, correct? She's free to do as she likes, so am I." Zoe's eyes blazed. "She's my age, Dad. That's disgusting." I turned, meeting her glare head on. Age is just a number when it's Mom and Lucas, but suddenly a moral crisis when it's me? Convenient double standard. Her mouth opened, closed, searched for ammunition that wouldn't load. With a frustrated huff, she spun on her heel and retreated to the same bedroom where she once hoarded stuffed animals. Evelyn appeared in the doorway minutes later, face pale, smile glued on, announcing errands in a tone that dared me to challenge her. I let her pass. The next clash detonated on a Saturday afternoon. I was in my armchair dissecting quarterly reports when Evelyn stormed in, eyes red, Zoe right behind her with arms folded like a bodyguard. "I want to close the marriage," Evelyn snapped. "Enough of this circus. You're humiliating me dating Lucas's daughter? I never agreed to be mocked in public. I lowered the folder, met her gaze. You asked for an open marriage. Open means exactly this. She threw a bundle of envelopes onto the coffee table party invites, gossip column clippings, rumors printed in ink. I'm done, Mason. I can't watch my own daughter see me degraded, or see my husband flaunt a younger woman. Let's end this farce. Zoe nodded so hard her ponytail whipped. This wasn't the plan. You're making a mockery of us. The plan. I almost laughed. Did you honestly think I'd sit home like an ATM, funding your affairs while you sampled the tasting menu down at Bellevue Bistro? You didn't expect resistance? This isn't supposed to be war, Evelyn pleaded, anger thinning to desperation. I made a mistake. I don't want Lucas anymore. Let's go back. Pretend none of this happened. Number. I crossed one leg over the other. We're not closing anything. Confusion flashed in her eyes. What do you mean? No. The postnup states the arrangement remains open unless we both agree to end it. I don't agree. She trembled. You're punishing me. I shrugged. You asked for the rules. Now we're playing by them. Dad, come on, Zoe interjected. She doesn't want this anymore. Be reasonable. Did you ever love Mom? A hot rush of frustration surged, bitter as battery acid. Where was her love when she asked to turn me into a punchline? When she paraded the idea like a self-help mantra and you applauded? Either of you consider my dignity? Silence. Two stunned faces. I pocketed my phone, grabbed my keys. I'm heading out. Don't wait up. I have a date. The front door slammed behind me, the sound echoing through the house like a gavel. 2 days later, Zoe ambushed me in the hallway before sunrise, eyes puffy from lack of sleep. Mom cries every night. She's miserable. I kept walking toward the kitchen, voice mild. Miserable because her scheme backfired, or miserable because you have to watch? Both, Zoe said, planting herself in my path. Stop seeing grace. If you want the marriage, act married. If you want a divorce, file. But quit torturing Mom. I sidestepped her, a pulse of anger thumping in my temples. You didn't mind the prospect of me being tortured, did you? Was it empowering to imagine your father groveling while you played cheerleader to your mother's midlife reinvention? She flinched. That's not fair. It was about empowerment. Spare me, I muttered, brushing past and leaving her in the half-lit hallway, clutching arguments that sounded thinner every day. I'm done bankrolling your nonsense, I snapped, voice flat as concrete. Speaking of which, how's that Audi lease? Didn't it expire last month? Who's covering the extension now? Zoe's brows pinched, confusion flickering like a dying bulb. You know I don't have that kind of money, Dad. Then figure it out, I said, setting my coffee mug down with deliberate precision. Same goes for your maxed out credit cards and next semester's tuition. Get a job, or find another benefactor, maybe Lucas, or whichever charmer your mother picks next. Her face drained to chalk. You're serious? You can't just cut me off. I'm your daughter. You chose your mother's side. Fair choice. Now live with the fallout. She clenched her teeth, fury trembling on her lips. You're going to make me beg? Try working, I replied ice cold. Ever heard of it? She bolted down the hall, tears pooling, screaming, You're a monster. The word ricocheted off the drywall. I stood there, oddly calm, listening to my own heartbeat settle into a slow, measured cadence. 2 weeks crawled by. Bills stacked on Zoe's desk like accusatory letters. The lease, the loan statements, minimum payment demands. She texted friends, scrolled job boards, waited for salvation that never materialized. The detonation came on a Tuesday. I'd barely stepped from the car when Zoe met me on the porch, eyes red, breath hitching. She thrust a notice at my chest. They're repossessing the Audi. I need that car. He can't show up to class on a bus like some loser. I unlocked the door, sidestepping her. If pride costs more than bus fare, that's your dilemma. She followed me inside, gestures frantic. You always said you'd support me through college no matter what. Are you really breaking your word? I faced her, weariness edging into anger. My condition was basic respect. Instead, you and your mother tried to turn me into a punch card ATM. So yes, deal revoked. I have $300 to my name, she wailed. Not my problem. Ask Mom's former lover. Maybe Lucas will write a check. Or one of her future bed partners. She sucked in a shocked breath. That's cruel. I offered a thin, Arctic smile. Just applying your modern Lagaseveroans free, remember? A sharp slapper palm against the sofa armrest echoed through the room. Why are you being so nasty? Yes, why? Another voice cut in. Evelyn stepped from the hallway, arms folded tight, expression brittle. Zoe spun away, cheeks wet. He's punishing us. I'm not punishing anyone, I said, turning to Evelyn. I'm simply done rewarding disloyalty. Evelyn's gaze flicked to our daughter on the verge of collapse, then back to me. Zoe, honey, go upstairs. Let me talk to your father. Zoe shot me one last glare and stomped off. Evelyn waited until the bedroom door slammed, then faced me squarely. Mason, enough. The open marriage idea was a colossal mistake, but now you're just vindictive. She's 22. She didn't understand the consequences. She understood well enough to cheer while you drafted the betrayal, I countered. Old enough to light the fuse, old enough to watch it burn. Evelyn's hands balled into fists, then loosened as if the fight leaked out. Handle Zoe however you want. But you and I, can we be civil? I'm finished with Lucas, all right? The man turned out to be a slick-talking coward. Canceled our last 3 dates by text. Her voice cracked. You humiliated me. Congratulations. But can we end this madness? Close the marriage. Find some new normal. No random dates. No drama. I'll sign anything. My jaw tightened. 2 weeks ago, you asked the same thing, and I said no. What makes you think anything's changed? Tears shimmered on her lashes. Because I can't do this anymore. Evelyn's voice cracked, riding the edge of a scream. I can't stand seeing you with Grace. She's my daughter's age, Mason. I can't deal with imagining you, sleeping with her. It's tearing me apart. She took a shaky step closer, eyes pleading. Let's just be a couple again, even if it's not perfect. Please. I didn't flinch. Number, you opened this door. You've kept it wedged open. There's no going back now. We passed that exit miles ago. Her legs buckled slightly, and she dropped onto the couch, face buried in her palms. You're so hateful now, she whispered through trembling fingers. Where's the man I married? I stared at her, voice drained of emotion. That man died the day you asked for an open marriage. Then I turned and walked away. A month passed. Zoe, tired of being cut off financially, packed her things and moved in with friends. Last I heard, it wasn't going smoothly. As for Evelyn, she stayed. But she drifted through the house like a ghost. She wore the same threadbare robe for days at a time, stopped brushing her hair, and often stared blankly at old family photos spread across the dining room table. I caught her crying once, quietly, while holding a picture of our wedding day. One late afternoon, she found me out back on the porch. Her face looked sunken, pale, eyes ringed in red. Mason, she said hoarsely, I need to tell you something. I didn't speak, just waited. I've been seeing doctors, she went on, wringing her fingers. I haven't been feeling right. And I tested positive for an STD. I raised an eyebrow. Her collarbones protruded under her shirt in ways they hadn't before. I got it from Lucas, she confessed, shame flooding her expression. I didn't think he… Anyway, I'm on medication. It's treatable, but humiliating. Her voice broke. So, I hope you're happy. You got your revenge. A flicker of something stirred in my chest, regret, pity, maybe just the echo of past care. But my words stayed flat. I'm not happy, Evelyn. I didn't orchestrate this. You made your choice. I agreed to it. You were the one who jumped into bed with the first man who gave you attention. Her eyes welled again, and a tear finally broke free. She wiped it away with a flash of anger. I get it. You hate me. Just, just promise me you're being safe with your fling. STDs aren't a joke. I kept my eyes fixed on the backyard fence, the trees swaying just beyond it. Grace isn't a fling, but thanks for your concern. She stared at me, lips trembling. You're a monster. I said nothing. She turned on her heel and vanished inside, leaving me in the hush of dusk and wind. I sat there for a long while, letting the chill of October wrap around me. Part of me felt a trace of sorrow for what she'd become, for what we'd both lost. Another part repeated the same line it had since day one. She brought this on herself. 3 weeks later, the fuse reignited. Zoe came storming back into the house like a hurricane. I was in the kitchen, scrolling through work emails, when she burst in, slamming the front door behind her. I have overdue loans, she shouted, slapping papers onto the counter. Her voice trembled, thick with fury. I can't cover them, Dad. You have to fix this. I didn't even look up. I don't have to do anything, I said. I'm not your personal piggy bank anymore. Her eyes darted around the room like a caged animal. Mom's broke. She can't even pay her electric bill, James ghosted her. She has no one to ask. And I've got no one but you. I finally set the phone down and met her eyes. You're an adult now. Time to act like one. Figure it out. She glared, voice dripping venom. You'd let your own daughter drown in debt? Let my credit and future fall apart just to prove some point? No, I said firmly. You did that yourself. You chose to mock me. You stood beside your mother while she humiliated me. I guess that outdated relic you laughed at doesn't feel like sponsoring your lifestyle anymore. Zoe stepped forward, jaw clenched, fists tight like she might lash out. And I, Mason Carter, felt every muscle in my body coil tight. Don't, I said coldly. Push me. I'm warning you, I said quietly, my voice low and deliberate. I've been far more patient than you deserve. If you're desperate, go ask your mother's ex for a bailout. Or better yet, try getting an actual job instead of half-heartedly filling out online applications in bed. If your friends won't spot you alone, that's on them, not me. Zoe's eyes narrowed, lips curled. Fine, she snapped. Just remember this when you're old and need help. Don't expect me to lift a finger. I arched a brow. I'm not worried. I'm more than capable of funding my own retirement. Her chest rose and fell, ragged. Then, with a choked noise of fury, she spun on her heel and stormed off. Her footsteps slammed against the hardwood like a tantrum in progress. 5 minutes later, I heard the front door crash shut behind her. Silence settled over the house like fog. The weeks that followed were heavy with quiet collapse. Evelyn lost more weight, her figure growing gaunt and almost translucent. She barely ate. Sometimes I'd hear her moving around at night, rummaging through old photos or whispering to herself in the kitchen. Every few days, she tried to breach the divide-soft questions, hesitant offerings. Mason, can we talk? Please. Can I cook dinner for us and we can just sit? I never said yes. My focus had shifted elsewhere. At first, Maria had been a statement-symbolic retribution, a mirror to hold up to Evelyn's hypocrisy. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. The connection grew real. Maria was driven. She was building her modeling portfolio, shooting for major brands, managing herself with business savvy I hadn't expected. She made me laugh genuinely, often. And more importantly, she listened. One night, glass of wine in hand, she asked me about Afghanistan. And for the first time in over 20 years, I told someone everything. The things I saw, the choices I made, the weight I carried home. She didn't flinch. She didn't pity. She just sat with me in the truth. She never weaponized my past, never used my vulnerabilities against me like Evelyn had when things got ugly. Then, one quiet evening in her apartment, she looked at me with nervous eyes and said, I'm pregnant. The air around us stilled. For a moment, even gravity felt suspended. How far along? I asked, heartbeat kicking up. 8 weeks, she said, searching my face. You're the father. Obviously. I didn't plan this, but I want to keep it. And I hope you do too. Shock slammed into me first, then worry, then something I hadn't felt in years. Shope. You're absolutely sure? I asked. Yes, she nodded, eyes shining. I didn't want it to happen this way, but I'm ready. Are you? I tried to channel my father stoic, contained, unshakable. But the truth was, I wanted this. I wanted a second chance, a clean slate, a family not built on guilt or power plays. Okay, I said at last, nodding. We'll figure it out, Maria. She exhaled like a weight had fallen from her ribs. Thank you. I know it's complicated, but I'm not running. I never meant to be part of some revenge plot. I never wanted this to be about James. The sound of that name made my jaw tense, but I let it go. I kissed her forehead gently. Let's not talk about him, I murmured. Let's talk about us, about the baby. When I returned home later that week, Evelyn was sprawled on the couch, eyes glazed over, a cooking show droning softly from the muted television. The moment she saw me, she sat up. Where were you? She asked, voice dull. With Maria, I answered, already heading for the stairs. Mason, she called out, tone shifting. Please, I'm sorry. For everything. But can we just talk? Can we close this chapter? Or file, at least. I can't stay stuck in limbo anymore. I paused halfway up the steps and turned to face her. If we divorce, you walk away with nothing. That's in the postnup. You forfeit everything. She nodded, shoulders sagging. I know. But maybe that's better than this. Better than feeling like a ghost in my own life. I looked at her, really looked. Her skin had gone pale. Her hair hung lifeless. Her eyes were dim hollows of the woman I once married. And for a fleeting moment, I saw the Evelyn I had once chased across a crowded bar, a younger version with laughter in her voice and mischief in her smile. A pang of something bitter and soft stirred in me. We'll talk, I said coolly, then turned and walked upstairs. 2 months later, Maria gave birth. Earlier son arrived 7 weeks ahead of schedule, but healthy. We named him Henry. The whirlwind of new fatherhood swept me away. I stepped back from the company, passed day-to-day duties to my senior team, and leaned into this new life. Maria and I laughed more than I thought possible. I found myself watching Henry sleep for hours, filled with quiet awe. Not long after, I proposed. She said yes. We married in a small, private ceremony. Just us. No guests, no ghosts. I insisted on a new prenup before the wedding. Part of me smirked at the thought I was turning into my father. Another part understood that maybe, just maybe, the old man had been right all along. Protect what matters. Guard what you've earned. Love doesn't preclude clarity. Even then, though, I couldn't fully shut Scarlett out of my mind. One night, around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. Her name. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mason, she whispered, voice trembling and weak. I think I made a mistake. I'm not feeling well. I want to see you. Please, I need you to. I cut her off. Call your parents, Evelyn, or call 911 if it's urgent. I have a newborn in the next room. I'm not your savior anymore. There was silence. 5 seconds, maybe 6. Then her breath hitched. I hate you, she choked, sobbing, and hung up. That was the last time we ever spoke on the phone. I filed for divorce a few weeks later, quietly. No drama. I told David to expedite everything, no drawn-out courtrooms, no public scenes. He handled it with clinical precision. Evelyn signed the papers without resistance. Maybe she felt relief. Maybe she just didn't have the strength to fight anymore. She vanished soon after. I assumed she moved in with her parents. I didn't ask. I turned my focus entirely to Maria and Henry. Our life was quiet, domestic, healing. We were building something new out of everything broken. Zoe. I didn't hear from her, but word trickled in through the grapevine. She'd taken a job at a fast food place flipping burgers, apparently. One afternoon, Curiosity got the better of me. I stopped by that McDonald's just to see. She was behind the counter, darting back and forth from fryer to register. Her hair tied up, face flushed, uniform wrinkled but alive, healthier than when I last saw her. I didn't say anything, didn't even linger, just grabbed my coffee and sandwich and left. But I felt a strange flicker of pride. She was learning what it meant to earn something, to survive without handouts. Maybe the distance had done what years of lectures hadn't. I let her be. The rift between us still ran deep, but I respected the path she'd chosen because this time, it was hers. 5 years slipped by. Henry grew into a joyful, boundless kid, full of energy, questions, and imagination. Maria and I created a rhythm quiet mornings, school projects, park days, late-night talks. Stability, at last. I never reached out to Evelyn or Zoe. A part of me still wondered how they were, but the rest of me was rooted firmly in the present. The past had taught me enough. Every now and then, someone mentioned Zoe had moved again, took a better job, was chipping away at her loans. Good. That's how it should be. She had made her stand. I had made mine. Then, one Sunday morning, the phone rang. I was in the living room, helping Henry organize his crayons and construction paper for another of his inventions. Maria was outside, enjoying the sun with a cup of coffee. The caller ID made me pause. Evelyn's father. We hadn't spoken since the divorce. I answered, "Hello?" There was a long pause. Then his voice came, hushed and worn. "Mason, Evelyn passed away last night." My breath hitched, a sudden, sharp drop in my chest. "What? How?" "She'd been living with us," he said slowly, "but her health had been declining for a while. That infection she caught from Lucas, it never really went away. It damaged her immune system. She was in and out of hospitals for months. Last night, she didn't wake up." I stood frozen, the phone pressed to my ear. My throat tightened. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said, the words brittle and too small. "We'll manage," he said after a long exhale. "I just thought you should know. Thank you for telling me." He didn't say anything else, just a tired sigh. Then the line went dead. I stared at the blank screen. Henry sat cross-legged on the floor, carefully coloring a paper airplane in neon green. Maria's soft humming drifted in from the backyard. The scent of fresh-cut grass wafted through the window. I thought about Evelyn, her final months, her loneliness, her body giving out one piece at a time. I thought about the betrayal, the shouting, the tears, the cold silences. I thought about the girl I married and the stranger she became. Pity, relief, regret, bitterness. But mostly, I felt the full weight of finality, the quiet, immovable truth that some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. I put the phone down gently and looked at my son. "Dad," he said, beaming, "can I show you something?" "Sure," I replied, forcing a smile. "Show me."